Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 week away from the most wonderful time of the year. The time that this podcast has been building up to since we started this half-baked idea of a show, because this literally just came from a group conversation in a chat one day, and we're like, let's make this happen. And many episodes later, NFL mock drafts, draft reviews, division previews, our whole playoffs the last time we were on a couple weeks ago. This is the moment that this show has really been waiting for us to go into and then ultimately, week by week, go over this upcoming 2022 NFL season. We are on the precipice of what this podcast was founded upon, ladies and gentlemen. Chaos, fun, and football. We're going to have all that and more over the next coming months. But before we get to that, of course, we go through this week's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a new episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. We are just half of the usual motley crew we have here. We'll get into the non-appearance of a certain individual in a second, but of course, everyone knows I'm talking about Sandoval. But in the meanwhile, I do still have one of my compatriots with me, of course, because let's be real here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not doing this show by myself. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. But with me this week, thankfully, I got my man Justin Zucker. Justin, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Getting excited. Only 4 days now? 5 days now?
Yeah.
All I need.
It's all I need. This is the time of year, Justin. Inject the football into our veins, into everything. Inject it into my eyes for all I care. Just my left eye, though. My right eye is
get it in there. Just get it in there.
Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. This is the time of year that we have been waiting for. In case there was ever any doubt, football is king sport here in America. Good old American football in the U.S. of A. And we are going to be talking about that, of course, as we do on a weekly basis. But we have some fun stuff coming in this episode because, of course, going into the season, we did our whole division previews. We gave you our playoff pictures last time we were on a couple weeks ago. Welcome back, Facebook viewers. We do this on a weekly basis. It was just a by chance thing that we had to take a week off because, the boys need a little bit of time off here, mainly because I wasn't going to be I was out of state last week as well. So that's mainly on me. But all that being said, we have something big planned. We've kind of been teasing it the last couple weeks, especially during the playoff challenge. We have something big and fun planned for us for this upcoming 2022 NFL season. I cannot wait for that. We are going to reveal that later on in the episode because we are going to, and a big part of that is going to be previewing this upcoming first game of the season between the Buffalo Bills and the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. That game is going to tie into the announcement we have for the season. We just know how to bring everything together here on the podcast. It just works out, Justin. I don't know. I think we get lucky sometimes, don't we?
Listen, anytime I get to sit down and talk about football is lucky to me. So,
absolutely. So we are going to be doing that, and of course, before we get to that, actually, we are going to give our final thoughts and final takes. It is a last call, so to speak, kind of like at the bar at 3 a.m. in the morning when they say last call. It's going to be last call and some hot takes that we have and thoughts going into the season. Of course, for the most part, we kind of gave a lot of the hot takes a couple 2 weeks ago. And if you haven't seen it yet, please, ladies and gentlemen, plenty of chaos on the last episode of the show that we did where we gave our full 1 through 7. And we also gave our Super Bowl matchups and our Super Bowl champions. So you want to go back to that episode to see it. So we have a couple final thoughts to give on this episode going into the season. It'll be interesting. We have different thoughts about offense, defense, teams, players. It could be about all kinds of things because per usual on the show, we don't ask each other about the takes and all that going into it. Yeah, that's right. We do all this on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of like it's really the model of this podcast, doing everything on the fly because this podcast was literally made on the fly as well. So we're going to do that and way more. But before, of course, like I said, there's a little bit of an absence here. Sandoval is not here, which means you guys know what that means. Rick isn't here. So it must be delayed yet another week of the usual weekly epic matchup we get between Justin and Sandoval. It's really, Justin, the way I compare you and Sandoval, to me, it's like Rome versus Carthage. To me, it's, in terms of historical significance between what you guys are slowly becoming, it's like Rome versus Carthage. Two great powers duking it out for a portion of the world. I don't know what portion of the world you and Sandoval are competing over, but to me, that's the historical grandeur that I want to give it.
Well, to me, it's like man versus machine because Sandoval's Ash Jeeves every time I ask a question. So,
So, but obviously, in all seriousness, Podfather Rick is not here. he's on a little bit of a trip. We may learn a little bit more into that later in the show. So he is not here. However, he did leave us some goodies per usual whenever Rick or Justin are out, and probably if it eventually comes to if I'm going to be out for an episode, I will also leave some video library stuff for the boys to be able to have a little bit of fun with as well. So Rick left us plenty of videos because he cannot leave the beautiful people here, Justin, without hearing his intrinsic thoughts. And one thing that Rick left us, of course, as everyone knows, the rants for the week. Rick has them. We will be playing that per usual at the end of the episode because even in video format, even when he's not here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end the show with the rants because you best believe we're ending the show with his rants. But before that, speaking of his rants, Justin, we know of all the topics that Rick has ranted about recently, right? He's ranted about Duncan. He's ranted about states passing rights in terms of what they refer to animals as.
Ducks.
Ducks. He's referred to a lot of different things, but one thing he ranted about on a recent episode was Coca-Cola and their little experimenting with new flavors. Right? You remember that, Justin? And
how could I forget?
How could anyone that watches this show on a weekly basis forget? So Rick had a little bit of fun, and this was last weekend when we were all off. Rick was like, you know what? I got to see what all this business is about. So, ladies and gentlemen, Rick made a worthy sacrifice for all of us.
All right, boys. Listen, it's 8:30 at night on a Saturday. Obviously, we're off this week, but I wanted to let you know of something. I bought the Coca-Cola Dream World that I was the number one thing that I had rated about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because it's time to try it and see what happens. So supposedly this is a mango flavored soft drink, so we'll see what happens. We'll take a big swig and I'll let you know. Okay, so the mango aftertaste comes in, but it's very faint at the end. Actually, the aftertaste is lingering a bit right now. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not the taste of dreams. I can tell you that much. It's kind of like a flat, sad mango Pepsi in a way. So Coke, this is a failure on your part.
Do we really need to get into I think the video speaks for itself. Rick had a little bit of fun, and of course, like I joked, made a sacrifice at all our expense with trying the Coca-Cola. I'm really curious now as to what these alternate flavors taste like. He just tried out their Dream World Mango, whatever the hell they want to call it. I almost want to. I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to find it around me, considering where I'm at, but I almost want to see if I see one of these alternate flavors, I might take the plunge and I might try one of these alternate flavors. Justin, what are you thinking?
Accidentally did try one. I thought I was buying a cherry Coke, and it was the Dream World one.
Really?
Yeah, it was okay.
Okay.
I didn't finish it. I'm not a big soda guy to begin with, so it was different.
Fair. Very fair.
You know how jarring it is to think you're drinking a certain flavor and then it's not that flavor?
Yeah.
It was a weird work day.
Oh yeah, it's happened to me in the past where it's like I would want to get like Pepsi, let's say, and I would accidentally like take like without realizing it, a cherry or like a vanilla Pepsi, and I would have it. I'm just like, why does this taste different? But because I'm me, I'm just like, fuck it, like, just finish it, just swig it. But yeah, it definitely it happens to all of us. It happens to the best of us, but that's how it goes. One thing you cannot confuse for any different flavors is Mountain Dew, because if there's one thing Mountain Dew has done right, at least they switched the drink color so you actually know what the flavor is. You can never go into a Mountain Dew store. I wish there was a Mountain Dew store. Trust me, I would buy everything in there, but you can't go into a deli for Mountain Dew. And if you want to get like Baja Blast, you can't grab the green one and think that's Baja Blast. No, that's the original OG forever and ever. No, you got to look for the specific colors there. So that's one thing Mountain Dew at least does right. Whereas just Coke and Pepsi, everything is literally same color, just a little switch on the label, which is lazy. But then again, that's just my opinion. But speaking of which, Speaking of not being lazy, we have one of the hardest working men in America on the show, ladies and gentlemen, because Justin, as I've said on a number of occasions, is a future American game show host, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what game show it's going to be. It could be Wheel of Fortune. It could be The Price is Right. It could be Jeopardy. For all I know, Aaron Rodgers thinks Jeopardy is his job in the future. Good sir, I present to you Justin Zucker, because Justin has been an absolute godsend, really, when it comes to the games. Of course, the weekly trivia is always fun. We're not going to have weekly trivia this week because, like I kind of mentioned earlier, if Sandoval not here, I don't really know how worth it is to have trivia. But or at least, well, Rick not being here as well, because let's be real here, it's more fun when it's several of us doing it. So we don't have any trivia this week, but we do have at least a round of Would You Rather. And to me, Would You Rather is just as fun as trivia, because the way that Justin does it, he gives two really difficult options, especially in recent episodes when it came to to me, the best one of the better ones recently, Justin, was like prime Adrian Peterson or current/prime Derrick Henry. And it's like, ooh, that to me was one of the best ones you've had yet, because that, it sparked a nostalgic flashback for me. But B, it really made me think of like the two of them, and like those have probably been the two best individual seasons of a running back that we've seen over the last decade or so. That 2012 Adrian Peterson when he won the MVP, and then recently with Derrick Henry when he was Offensive Player of the Year, the season he ran for over 2,000 rushing yards, and the potential season he could have had last year had it not been for injury. So that was an amazing one. I can't wait for what we got this week on this edition of the NFL Would You Rather. And because normally, I'll say this real quick, Justin, normally you leave it to me and Rick. I want to get your opinion on this week's, on the Would You Rather we got this week, because we rarely get to hear from you. And the people want to know, Justin. The people want to know what's on your mind.
All right, I'm cool with that.
uh,
My first question is, seeing as the season is about to start, I was curious how you feel. When would you rather your team start their season? Thursday, Sunday, or Monday?
ooh, oh, Thursday, Sunday, or Monday? Huh. When would I rather have my team? Is that from like a fan perspective, or if I'm like a part of the team?
Well, either or.
So, because the thing is, normally, like the Thursday night game means, for the most part, they try to put the Super Bowl champion from the year before in there.
Mm-hmm.
So technically speaking, there's like a 50-50 chance I could be the defending Super Bowl champion. But taking that part out of it, really, realistically, maybe this is just me. I wouldn't mind just being a regular Sunday game. If I'm the Sunday night game, that would be cool. But I wouldn't mind just being the Sunday game. We have an entire season of opportunities to be able to perform and be on the Thursday Night Football, which Thursday Night Football a lot better this year than what it's been in recent years, schedule wise. Yeah, well, on paper at least, this season's lineup of Thursday Night Football games, which is also something that we slightly covered in a previous episode, way back in the archives. This was months ago when we went over like the NFL schedules. We didn't go too in depth in Thursday Night Football because, in the words of Rick, I will never watch Amazon TV. So we didn't really go too in depth with it. But this, on paper, the Thursday Night Football schedule looks a lot better this season than it has in recent years. So there's the opportunity for Thursday night. A good chunk of teams get Monday night games. So like maybe it's the risk of you don't get a Monday night game if you don't pick this first one. But to me personally, I would be content with just starting regular Sunday, maybe Sunday Night Football if I get lucky. And let's just go through the season. Let's get this underway, and like you just prove it throughout the season. Maybe there's a flex here and there where you end up being a primetime game, because here and there, I think we're going to see some flexes, because there's always at least one team, Justin, where we have high expectations of going into the season that just completely fails all of us. And who knows what that team is going to be this year? Some people think it'll be the Dallas Cowboys if your expectations for them are high enough. Some people think and hope it's the Tennessee Titans. So it's a number of variables that go into the season. But myself personally, let's start out with just a regular Sunday football game.
I'm thinking. Now you mentioned, I think as a purist, that 1:00 game on Sunday is good. Like, part of me wants to be like strategically, like, even if it's not the Super Bowl winning team, generally if you're playing on Thursday, you're projected to be good. You'll have that extra time for week 2 and like all that stuff. But like, that's the best Thursday night game you could be in, as opposed to like the other ones where you have certain short weeks and longer weeks. So yeah, I think I would probably go with Sunday 1:00. There's just something about 1:00 Sunday opening week. It's just that perfect time.
Right. I personally, for me, What I do? I think I'd want to be one of the 4 o'clock games. I think being a 4 o'clock game on Sunday. I think that's like that's it's not the actual prime time because it's not Sunday Night Football, but like to me, like a 4 o'clock game on a Sunday,
America's
that
game of
feels
the week.
yeah. I think being a 4 o'clock game on a Sunday, being one of those premier, because Sunday it's a lot of different 1 o'clock games, and there are going to be some stinkers in there that will end up being on like red zone for like a play. I want to be one of those 4 o'clock games where it's like people start to pay attention a little bit more. It's like, ooh, you know what? This team, this team could be something this season because you never know. Sometimes Justin, sometimes the 4 o'clock slot on Sunday football is what breeds champions. I'm basing that off of absolutely no stats and nothing else whatsoever because I have no idea if that's the truth. But for the heck of it, I was lucky with the week 1 Sammy Watkins stuff. I'll test my luck on that as well. But yeah, me personally, I would say like a 4 o'clock game on Sunday night or on Sunday afternoon. Excuse me. So that's for me. Any more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh.
So I was thinking, let's say you're a team in a random division and you had to play another division. Which division would you rather face? The NFC West or the AFC North?
Oh. Okay. So you're saying like I face all 4 teams in this division?
Yeah, like let's say you're opposite conference. You
Mhm.
have to play all 4 teams.
Right. All right. Okay, so and I know some people might be like, really? I would pick the NFC West because here's why. Yes, I know the defending Super Bowl champions are in that division. I know I'm getting smoked in that game. Let's be real here. I know I'm getting smoked. It's Cooper Kupp and Al Robinson, Matt Stafford, Donald Ramsey, all those boys. We'll get into more detail about the Rams later on in this episode. So I know the Rams are there. The rest of the division, though, I think because to me, in the AFC North, you have just based off of last season, you have the defending AFC champions in the Cincinnati Bengals are still going to be a high-powered offensive team. Maybe can the defense play a little bit like how they did in the playoffs? Because people forget that Cincinnati Bengals defense in the playoffs stepped up in big moments. So that defense can maybe give you some issues. You got the Baltimore Ravens if they're healthy. J.K. Dobbins, Edwards in that running back crew, along with Lamar Jackson being there. Like there's some talent on that team. And that defense, especially that secondary in Baltimore, is really good. The Pittsburgh Steelers, somehow, some way, Mike Tomlin just he like when the Steelers enter a season, even with dead expectations, Mike Tomlin seems to get that team from the grave and to at least 500. I don't understand how he does it. That's just who Mike Tomlin is. He's just that dude. So that'll be a tough game. And to me, the quote unquote easiest game, at least for this season, could potentially be the Cleveland Browns, depending on if you see them pre or post that scumbag Deshaun Watson coming back onto the field. So to me, it's the potential of 4 really difficult games there. Now I know because it's the NFL any given Sunday, but let's just be real here. Let's keep it on paper. It's 2 for sure difficult opponents. One where they're going to throw their best shot at you, and another one where, depending on who the quarterback is, it could be tough. But also that defense with Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. There's some ballers on the Cleveland Browns defense, so it's not necessarily easy. Whereas to me, if I look at the NFC West, aside from the LA Rams, I have a Seattle Seahawks team that is completely rebuilding. If they get 2 wins this season, I think that'll be lucky. So you have either Geno Smith or Drew Lock at the quarterback there. I'm not scared of Geno Smith or Drew Lock. Let's be real. I love the shooter sleeve. Look, look on my all accessory team, Drew Lock is one of my quarterbacks. He's not my starter, but he's one of my quarterbacks. So you have the Seahawks. Even though I did pick them for the playoffs, I think both the 49ers and the Cardinals have weaknesses to them that I think people are going to be able to exploit in pockets of the season. With the 49ers, a big thing will be health. What is the health of that team looking like into that game? Is Debo 100%? Is George Kittle playing? Is Brandon Ayuk a little bit banged up? Because even though he played a majority of last season, Justin, I think Ayuk was a little bit hampered here and there with injuries. I don't think he was 100% all of last season. I think that played a role because I think he could have easily been a 1,000-yard receiver last season, straight up. And I think he will be this season. But at the same time, there's health with their skill position players. The offensive line, Rick was really the one that pointed this out to us, and I've really hold on to this point strongly ever since he made it, where there's no Alex Mack because he retired, and they lost Laken Tomlinson in free agency to your New York Jets. So that's 2 big pieces of the interior gone off of that offense. And then on the defense, it's kind of a similar thing where even if I assume the defense is healthy, yes, Bosa and Warner, Not something I want to see. But that secondary is weak. There is no definitive Pro Bowl, All Pro, however you want to say, caliber player on that secondary. I think that's a big weakness for that team. And so I think, and Trey Lance is the biggest X factor. Because is he going to be the Trey Lance that people are expecting, where he could throw some of these 50-yard bombs to Debo and Ayuk? Or is he going to be the Trey Lance that some people are thinking, where he'll play good, but this is his first year starting, even though it's a second year learning that offense? He's essentially like a redshirt rookie. Let's be real here. So to me, there's advantages there. Whereas with the Arizona Cardinals, similar thing. Kyler Murray, yes, he can be electric, but that offensive line, I think, started to get a little bit exposed last year. I think the Cliff Kingsbury offense as a whole, like there are cracks there that you can most certainly take advantage of, especially the first 6 weeks of the season with no DeAndre Hopkins on that team, and you need to expect other receiving weapons on that team to step up. And that defense, like, man, I did not like the fact that they just let Chandler Jones walk, because aside from J.J. Watt, there's no other proven pass rusher on that team. And even J.J. Watt, like, this is nowhere near his peak. This is like towards the end of his career. They have some young pieces there, yes, but they've misused some of these guys in Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins. Isaiah Simmons, to me, had a really good year too, like I said when we reviewed the teams a couple weeks back, but he needs to have a big year 3, and Zaven Collins needs to actually play this season. I think they really used him a lot in special teams and just didn't put him out there enough as a rookie. Very similar to what they did to Isaiah Simmons. And I'm almost concerned, like Isaiah Simmons proved in year 2 he could play good. Is that rookie season going to cost them with Zaven Collins? Or have they maybe stunted him early on in the development process? Who knows? I think it's a legitimate thing. So I think the top 2, yes, the Rams are better than the Bengals. They won the Super Bowl, but we take it like a step further. The Ravens are better than both the Cardinals and 49ers, whoever what you want to put as your second team there. It's very flexible. And then to me, I think the Steelers will give you the better challenge. Just on a play-by-play basis, they're more of a challenge than the other teams. Are those other teams arguably maybe more talented on paper, especially the Cardinals with the quarterback situation? I'd argue so. But again, I think there are more cracks into those two teams than compared to the AFC North. So if I had to face one of them, I would say the NFC West is who I would take my chances with.
Yeah, you pretty much covered it all.
Yeah,
whether or not I was going to choose something else, you convinced me, Jared.
Justin going into this, I might pick the AFC North. Listens to my breakdown. You know what? He not wrong. He not wrong. I think the biggest thing, Justin, like the Seahawks to me are the ultimate difference, where it's like the 1 through 3, you could make the argument there's no competition, even without Deshaun Watson. We know between the Browns and the Seahawks who the worst team is. Like that. That is going to be a rough season for Seattle. Actually,
if they're like, what does he get? 10-game suspension?
8 Watson?
Yeah.
I forget. I think it's 11 games. He's coming back in the Texans game. I know that much.
11 games. So what if they're 1-10? Do they play him?
I think. Oh, wow, that's actually a good. That's a good question to bring up. This would you rather? Would you rather play Deshaun Watson, yes or no, for the rest of the season, ladies and gentlemen? I think they will, just because I don't think they can risk 2 full years of him completely being out and then coming back to football in 2023.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, like I would take the risk in just bringing him back because I think the combination of that, he needs the real chemistry with the offensive line and the receivers. Like I just think it'll do that team a lot better, even if they're playing for nothing. I think Deshaun Watson coming back and actually being able to play for them, like I think that's something they should do. Plus, let's be real here. Deshaun Watson has played football games that have been absolutely meaningless before in his career. He was a Houston Texan for a good while. So, like, I know they made the playoffs a couple times, but that last season he was there, they went, 4-12? And he almost threw for 5,000 yards.
They were bad.
They were. It was rough to say the least. Why were you thinking? Is that just like something you saw, like a question some people posed, or is like, do you think there's
just thought of it? I was thinking, you were saying he's suspended, and
right.
The Browns are probably not going to be great, in his first season, especially if he's not playing the first 11 games. So I was like, what do you do there?
Do you like? So in your mind, like maybe you have the same take where it's like he probably will play, but do you think like what merit is there do you think
Well,
potentially behind that
let me
argument?
say this. Let me say this. Guys that miss training camp or like have extended breaks, when they come back, it takes a while to get your body into football shape because there's really no simulation that you can do that keeps your body in shape. So let's say he comes back week 12 and he plays it 2 games and he tears his ACL. Now you're looking at, you know, time missed the next season. But at the same time, is it worth, having him miss 2 full years? I mean, at that point, you're literally just transferring the time. He's going to miss that much time, but you also can't predict that he's going to get injured. So it's a tough choice. If they're really bad and they're really out of it, do you make that decision to say, "Hey, listen, Deshaun, you're getting paid this year. Don't worry about it. Just hang out, sit. We'll have you on the field during practice. You'll be the number one, but relax." Or you put him in and you take the risk and see what you got because you did give up a lot for him.
Yeah, yeah, that was 3 first-round picks that they gave up for
Yeah.
that guy. One of them being this year, and I think ultimately that's going to be a big thing why they would play him because those first-round picks, man, like that's going to be very interesting to say the very least how the season goes. I think we're not going to get into a whole breakdown of it because we kind of did a breakdown or two on the Cleveland Browns already in like the earlier parts of like in past episodes, but like just the idea of what that team could potentially be. There's still talent there, of course, especially with the defense, and I think the offensive line is still relatively sturdy. It's just the what Kevin Stefanski can do for that offense, I think, will be a very interesting thing because I mean, Jacoby Brissett, for all intents and purposes, is a pretty good backup quarterback, and people have sung his praises before. I think with Brissett, even though his talent isn't fully up there, I think the pieces around him are fine enough. And maybe at the end of the day, we're just not giving that team as constructed enough credit potentially. Like, I mean, we talk about surprises, Justin. Maybe could the Browns potentially surprise people going into the season? Like, honestly, who knows?
They
Like,
do have a really good defense, and I didn't love that they got rid of some of their linemen, but I do love Amari Cooper and their run game. So we'll see. I wouldn't be super surprised if the Browns were 500 going into week 12, or just under or just over 500 going into week 12 when Deshaun comes back. Um, it is what it is.
yeah, exactly. And like it could be one of those things where I said it earlier. The sometimes in the NFL, look, at some point you got to expect that the unexpected is going to happen. For some people, I mean, it could end up being that the Cleveland Browns are better than we thought, and Jacoby Brissett does a more than admirable job there. Which, if he does, hey, that only means Jacoby Brissett. If he can lead this team to a 500 record, Jacoby Brissett is guaranteed to be a backup for the rest of his career. Like, and I'm not saying that to make fun of his talent. I mean, he will guarantee he will have an NFL job for the rest of his career, however long he wants to pursue it. If he can help bring this team to a 500 record, he's going to be teams will be wanting to give him to be their backup quarterback for the rest of his life. Like
Absolutely.
we make the emergency quarterback joke sometimes with certain guys. It's like, oh, because remember, like way back, Justin, this was freaking early 2010s where the Cowboys brought back John Kitna for one game to be the backup quarterback because they needed him. Like Jacoby Brissett will be retired and he's like 37, but a team will call him. It's like, hey, we need a backup for a week. You try and do this, we'll give you a game check. And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? Like I would do it.
Why wouldn't you?
I'd sign it. Heck, price might be high up there. It's like, oh, that would be the best thing. I want a future where Jacoby Brissett haggles teams to get him for just one game. That should be a thing. If the NFL, because you know how the NBA has 10-day deals. If the NFL ever did week by week contracts, Jacoby Brissett would be like he would make bank off of that. It's like $500,000 to give me for a week. It's like, yeah, sure. I think it'd be worth it. It'd be the greatest thing. So there's that with the Browns, Justin, where maybe they could be the surprise team to some people. There's the other side of the spectrum where some people maybe are taking a good team and are projecting them to finish lower than we're all thinking. Like some people thinking the Kansas City Chiefs will be like the 3rd seed in the division, or even other teams will finish lower. There are some people that'll even have the take that the Detroit Lions will win the NFC North this upcoming season. Who would do that? We don't know.
I'm surprised they didn't say they'd win the Super Bowl.
Right. But what we do know, ladies and gentlemen, is that whether your take is on the Lions or a team like that being better or a team being worse, hot takes galore when it comes to every single NFL season. And before we truly get into this 2022 season, we're here for a last call on our hot takes and thoughts going into this upcoming campaign. you kind of for the most part got a good chunk of them when we did our playoff predictions, but we still have, there we still got some bullets in the chamber here. We didn't give everything on the episode. You got to leave the people thinking and wanting more. In reality, because we haven't really talked about the award specifically, and I do have an award hot take in my repertoire for this segment. But last hot takes going into this 2022 NFL season, Justin. To me, the idea of a hot take is always intriguing because you have the basis there of how realistic is the person being and just how off the wall insane are they, right? Like it's walking a fine line, because sometimes when people make hot takes just for show, they get memed on for the rest of their careers. And if I mean, obviously the people that are well versed in the internet watching us believe that, but if you don't, please check a Max Kellerman compilation on YouTube, because my lord, the NBA community and what they've done to that man for stuff that some of it he probably didn't really think or believe, but he had to say it anyway. Probably true, because Justin, Martians, death beam pointed at the Earth. Who do you want taking the last shot? I want Igwood. That's one of the greatest clips of all time. Actually, Justin, no, before we get into this, death beam at the Earth. You need a quarterback and receiving combo of today's players to throw it for a touchdown. Who are you picking?
And make the combo, or is it?
You make the combo. You pick the quarterback and the receiver. They could be on separate teams.
Interesting. You know what? Pretty sure I would take Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
That's not a bad one. I was thinking, I'm thinking it's either them or probably like Mahomes and another wide receiver that left their team, Tyreek Hill.
Well, I was thinking like Rodgers is probably the quarterback for me. He hits so many Hail Marys. And then I was like, well, you can go Chase or Jefferson. Like, why? They have the chemistry. Why not just go Devontae Adams? It's the same thing as far as a toss-up ball is concerned. So,
yeah. I mean, if you really want a Hail Mary threat for Aaron Rodgers, DeAndre Hopkins as well. He's caught a couple deep ones in his day as well. But the chemistry is certainly there. Although I will say, all time, if I could pick like my dream Hail Mary situation, Aaron Rodgers to Calvin Johnson would be.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh my gosh, we're on the same wavelength today, Jared.
Bro, could you imagine? Like, we're going into fantasy territory. I promise we won't wholly divert off this, ladies and gentlemen. But could you have imagined at his peak, Calvin Johnson leaving Detroit, going to the Packers? Just oh my God, he would have been even better. it would have been even better for him. Like, oh man, just we need a Photoshop. If any of you know Photoshop or have seen it, please show us, because I want to see Calvin Johnson in Green Bay Packers jersey now, because that would have been something different. But irregardless, aside from our football fantasies, and I'm sure one day we could certainly make like a fantasy team of like the past decade or so of players, which would probably be a fun segment to do. Well, we're going into regular season, so maybe next off season we will have plenty of time for fun games like that. But let's go back to it, Justin. Hot takes to end off the off season, fully going into 2022. I think there is no better way to start this off than to the man who told us that he has the Detroit Lions making the playoffs,
winning the Super Bowl,
and then subsequently, losing their first playoff game. Rick, what else?
I told them it's called the Sports Agents of Chaos, and every time I have to do one of these video recordings, I always dress up in this shirt for some reason. Not quite sure why. Oh, hey guys, how we doing? Yes, I am recording this, of course, in my Huntington Country Club polo shirt. I will not be joining you. I am either going to be upstate or I'm driving upstate at the moment this podcast airs. So sorry about that, but I'll be back next week. And also wanted to hope that you guys enjoyed the Coca-Cola Dream World recap video. Sure, it was very enjoyable for, you guys. Not so much for me, but neither here nor there. Wanted to give you some hot takes for the upcoming NFL season. Not as hot as my divisional round, but as hot as the fiery Indian curry that I had for lunch this afternoon, which was, that did a number on my taste buds, of course. Anyways, moving on. Hot take number one. There will be an NFL head coach who will be fired before the end of the season in week 12 or week 13. But it's not the name you're thinking of. It's not going to be Matt Rule or Arthur Smith or Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick. Let me dream. It's going to be Mike McCarthy for Dallas. I believe the Cowboys are going to have a bad year, and I think this is going to be the impetus for Jerry Jones to want to pave the red carpet and roll it out for Sean Payton next year to get rid of Mike McCarthy. And he'll do that in the middle of the season. Let Kellen Moore finish out the last season with like the last 3 or 4 games, but it's all Sean Payton. They're going to throw however much money they can at him to get him to come out of retirement and lead their team as the head coach. Hot take number 2. This will be the closest MVP race in NFL since 2005. Back then, Sean Alexander was one of 5 candidates for the MVP and the Offensive Player of the Year award. It was him, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Tiki Barber, and Carson Palmer. Now, in the Offensive Player of the Year voting, which had the same 5 candidates, Alexander won that going away tremendously. But in the MVP voting, it was a closer race. I think he had 18 or 19 votes to Peyton Manning's 13 and Tom Brady's 10. You've got a lot of offensive weapons here in this year's NFL. You've got all the quarterbacks we know: Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, etc. And then you got Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, but you've also got Jonathan Taylor as the running back. Austin Eckler could be a force, and even on defense, I'm sure TJ Watt might get some love as well. So it's going to be a really interesting year. I think the closest MVP race since '05. Number 3 hot take is that there will be a defensive end who will break the rookie sack record set by Javon Curse. He had 14 and a half. I believe it's going to be 15 and a half, maybe even 16. But it's not the name you're thinking of. I'm going to go with George Karlaftis to break the rookie sack record. I love the way he plays the game. I think he's got a big chip on his shoulder from when he was drafted because he could have gone top 15. He was the 30th pick by Kansas City, and he has absolutely transformed that defense, and he's really found his niche. And I think he's going to be a force and be terrifying for other quarterbacks to face him. And I see him being Defensive Rookie of the Year and breaking the rookie sack record.
Wow. So very much like with the rants whenever he's live and later when it's recorded, ladies and gentlemen, we have no idea what we didn't know going into that, what his hot takes were going to be. So let's break them down one at a time here, Justin. The coach that gets fired during the season, Mike McCarthy from the Dallas Cowboys. I think of all the ones that Rick said there, I think that's the closest one to being a reality. Now, I know you and Matt Rule have your little love-hate relationship. I'm kidding, of course, but I know you.
Been unlucky. He hasn't had a quarterback.
Very true, but this could also be a case where if it just doesn't go well for Matt Rule once again, maybe it could be the case for him as well. But at the same time, who's another team that if they're, let's say, hovering or below 500, if they're not meeting expectations, could be fired before the end of the season? I think Mike McCarthy's actually a pretty good shout here because let's be real here. Like, even though Jerry Jones and the Cowboys opening of training camp and practice and stuff came out in favor of Mike and defending him, let's be real here. Jerry Jones has his expectations, and he wants Mike McCarthy. He wants his team to have some modicum of success this season. And I don't just mean make the playoffs and win a game. I think Jerry Jones is thinking this team can at least make the Super Bowl. Now, how realistic is that compared to what we think? Obviously, different ends here. But Jerry Jones has been chasing the Super Bowl crown for a while. He wants it back. And I think for his expectations, let's minimize it a little bit. Let's say NFC Championship game appearance here, which for the likely case for the Cowboys this season, that'll mean winning 2, not one, but 2 playoff games for them to make it to the NFC Championship game. I don't think that'll happen, especially, Justin, and I think this is part of the reason why Rick is saying this. There's a nice, shiny Sean Payton there who took a year off. Let's be real here. He said retirement. He's essentially taking a year off, waiting for a next job. We know Jerry Jones has loved Sean Payton for a long, long time. I think that's where Rick is going with that thought process. What do you think?
It's certainly a possibility. Just for me, I don't really, as far as back as I can remember, the Cowboys don't fire people mid-season unless they are really, really bad to start the season off, like 1-7. I don't see him losing his job immediately. Listen, if they make the playoffs again and they're first round out, I think his name will be on the hot seat. But the Cowboys are known for sticking with their guys. They went for McCarthy for a reason. Whether or not I think he should be out of there doesn't change the fact that I think that 9-8 in the playoff spot, they might stick with Jerry Jones. So.
Well,
I stick with Mike McCarthy.
I mean, to be fair, Jerry Jones probably thinks himself as
Jerry Jones. We're going to change that.
There's only one thing. Father Time is going to be what takes Jerry Jones away from the Dallas Cowboys, and I think Jerry Jones has been whooping on Father Time.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jones took the Cowboys with him. So,
you know what? I would be shocked either. Oh my god, that's the funniest thing. Oh my god, just imagine Jerry Jones just takes the whole franchise into the afterlife, the logo and all. You know what? I see it. I see it. Despite the fact that Stephen Jones, for all intents and purposes, has actually done a relatively good job when he's also had to get his hands in there, because he's also, when I say good job, the most important thing is keeping his father from making terrible draft day decisions. Jerry Jones, I want to get Johnny Manziel, his son. Dad, let's be real here. Like that might be, if I was a Cowboys fan, I would be thanking Stephen Jones to heaven and earth and all the way back for the fact that he convinced Jerry to not go after Manziel, and they instead got, I forget which, I think it was Travis Frederick who they got in that draft instead of Johnny Manziel. I could be wrong. I think it was Frederick, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So and that was a Pro Bowl center, all pro caliber center for a decade compared to draft busts. Stephen Jones is doing his job, if you ask me. So that's certainly one way to go. But I do agree with the premise there. It's the Cowboys are underperforming. I definitely get your point in terms of like they just don't fire guys if they're at least doing well enough. I think like again, we'll talk about potential collapses this season. I think it would take a real Cowboys collapse in order for there to be a change this season when it comes to the head coaching staff. So I think, I mean, maybe this is counteracted, Justin. I can't think on paper of a single head coach I would fire before the end of the season properly. Like, even if they're performing bad, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I mean, certainly, I definitely get Rick's point overall. So definitely not a bad premise there. Next one, a little bit, definitely an interesting one, because I think this could be the case just because of the talent in the league. This could be the closest MVP case that we've seen in a while, the closest MVP race, and him bringing up the 05 seasons race as a good example there. I can't necessarily disagree with him, because I feel like at least going into the season, for the most part, we bring up a bunch of names. I think it's a similar case this year. He brings up the quarterbacks, but you have Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, to me, are the two running backs who could actually make a case, depending on if they get close to or surpass 2,000 yards. You have all world talents in Cooper Kupp, who got the receiving triple crown last season. I don't know how many, if any, MVP votes he got last year, but the receiving triple crown, if he could follow that up, Devontae Adams is one of the best receivers in the league. Like, there are a plethora of skill position players who could have a massive impact this season.
But the issue is, unless the guy who leads the league in receiving and has the triple crown and the most touchdowns and all that stuff, unless he has a revolving door of quarterbacks, the quarterback is going to get the credit and going to win the MVP.
Very true.
So that's just the world we live in, unfortunately. Like, it might be all, like, Justin Jefferson could do that, and they give it to Kirk Cousins. It's just the way it is.
So true. So. It's oh god, no, Justin, you put the visual in my head of if Kirk Cousins could win an MVP award. Oh my god.
So
no.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it being a tight race, but if it's a tight race, it means it's going to be because it's between Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and all these big name quarterbacks that are around there. Like I said, I was firmly convinced last year that if he didn't get hurt, Derrick Henry would have been the NFL MVP, because he really did something that I have not seen of a running back. I mean, he had more yards per contact by like 150 yards than the next guy, and that's just yards per contact. That's not all rushing yards. It took two ridiculous games by Jonathan Taylor to even catch where he was. So, and everyone's saying, "Oh, JT this, JT that." I love JT. He was on my fantasy team last year. He was fantastic for me. He's a great player. I would pick him in a heartbeat again. Healthy Derrick Henry is like something we've never seen before. He was on pace to shatter that record. And I got news for you. He probably would have done it in 16 games.
Right.
The way he was running last year. So it'll depend on if these guys can stay healthy. I mean, if JT takes a step forward and breaks, like if JT does something like 1,000 receiving yards and 2,000 rushing yards, which would be just unheard of.
Right.
Yeah, he deserves it, but we'll see. I mean, at that point, maybe it's Matty Ice that gets a lot of the nudges there. So
yeah, and that is the. I mean, you talk about MVPs there. That is a former MVP at quarterback, and we know they would definitely fall in love with the narrative if the Colts are doing well. They would try to stick it on Matt Ryan before they stick it on Jonathan Taylor. I think you're right. It is like at the end of the day, it's a quarterback-driven award, and I think the idea of it being a close race is nice, but I think it's probably going to end up being a quarterback that wins it this year. I don't think that's really a hot take, obviously, but I could see it being a quarterback because even you look at the situations, Justin, with even some of the teams that have cropped up, like who's to say if the Raiders and Broncos, like if they do good and Derek Carr and Russell Wilson respectively do good enough that they don't get MVP votes if they have really good seasons, like
Guys that come out of nowhere, absolutely.
yeah, and especially like guys that could lead those teams to especially guys that could lead their teams to double-digit wins. Now, once again, I've unlocked a new nightmare scenario for me. If Russell Wilson wins it, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, that because it's me, they're going to be the top 2 MVP vote getters this season. I'm going to cry myself to sleep when that happens. So actually, no, we have a third trifecta in there. If Ryan Tannehill is in the top 3, that is my 3-headed hydra of nightmare fuel for the MVP scenario. So thanks, guys. Thanks for doing that to me. Let's skip to the last one for Rick. George Karlaftis breaking the rookie sack record and winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Certainly, like we all love George Karlaftis in the draft process, Justin. So I'm gonna throw it to you first. Like, I think I could see him having a good season, but to me, a good season would be like 8, maybe 9 sacks. Breaking the rookie sack record, that's a high bar.
I like George Karlaftis. He was a high motor guy. He had a lot of sacks in college, but to me, sacks are much more of a team stat than you think because it's 5-on-5. If it's not 5-on-5, you're getting doubled. George Karlaftis has a great start. All of a sudden, he's the only guy on that defense that they're blocking. So it's one of those stats that you really need a good team around you. And I don't necessarily have faith in that Kansas City pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
They have some good games and some bad games. They've been shaky. They're trying to address it now. But and like I said, I like Karlaftis. He's got the speed. He's got the strength. His arms are a little short, which doesn't bode well for him, at least for creating separation. But it'd be something. I would be shocked.
Right.
That would be the hottest take for me.
Right. So I want to throw this one to you as an alternative to the rookie pass rusher thing. So I was just looking on like websites throughout last night and today, just seeing a couple things, including rookies as well. And I saw one site. I don't have it on me in terms of like it was just like a one rookie in each division that could really like sway the balance of things type deal. And for the NFC West, the person doing the article put Drake Jackson as their rookie. And to me, and that's the San Francisco 49ers defensive lineman that they drafted in the second round of this draft at pick 61. USC product, so Rick is definitely never going to pick him no matter what in regards to a defensive rookie of the year pick. But you have Drake Jackson for the San Francisco 49ers. 3 times he made the All Pac-12 second team. So that's the thing. He's never been a first team all conference player in his respective division for like when he was in college. But you look at the defensive line, maybe this could be part of that thing, Justin. This is not my hot take. Let me just clarify. But in terms of rookie pass rushers that could do damage this season, that's a guy who he's got Nick Bosa next to him. He's got, if he can have another good to great season, Eric Armstead is there along that defensive line. You have that front 7 overall with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner as 2 really good linebackers. Drake Jackson could actually be a pretty underrated guy to make an impact here early, especially if he can do it at his age. He's 21 years old. That would be extremely unique. Like a 21-year-old just killing in the NFL is kind of a rare thing. But that, like, just part of me can kind of see something happening with these pass rushers. I'm with Rick. I think a pass rusher could have a really good performance in this past draft. I don't know how high you and Rick have been on him, but Jermaine Johnson maybe, if he could have like a big rookie year.
You know what's funny? People are saying he has a great camp, but in the preseason games, you really don't hear his name. The name you keep hearing is Michael Clemens, the 5th round pick the Jets took out of was it Texas A&M?
I think so.
They say his motor, he's always around the quarterback. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know if Jermaine Johnson is playing there, and that's why we're not really hearing him, or what. But I'm curious to see this Jets defensive line once it gets on the field, because they got some young talent there now on the defensive line. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be interesting. Some young pass rushers coming into the league this year could be something to keep an eye out for on some of these teams and what these rookie pass rushers could do. But speaking of pass rushers, I got something involved pass rushing in my hot takes going into this season. So My final take slash hot takes going into the season, and I have them all nice and spicy here. Especially my, I'm actually going to flip the order here. I'm going to save originally my second one for last because I think this is going to be like the big one that'll get a reaction, especially out of Justin here. So let me start. Let me actually just keep the trend going here when it comes to the defense. But my prediction is that a pass rusher will not win the Defensive Player of the Year award this season. We've had a lot of guys for a while now. It's been Aaron Donald who's won it a couple times. Of course, J.J. Watt had his run. A lot of pass rushers tend to win the Defensive Player of the Year award because at the end of the day, the biggest component in an award is sacks. And if you see a guy with a bunch of sacks, you love that number. T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, also two guys who have like been in consideration for that award so many times. Defensive player of the year is predominantly a pass rushing award, but there are a lot of extremely talented non-pass rushers. At least pass rushing is not their first and foremost thing. I think could potentially win defensive player of the year this season. To me, Micah Parsons is certainly going to be a candidate. Now you could argue it maybe because he's kind of like a kind of a unicorn. Like they put him in pass rush sets, but he is also, I think he's still predominantly a linebacker. He's just a guy who can really blitz the hell out of the quarterback and just go after it as well. I think Micah Parsons could be a guy. Another linebacker there as well, Devin White on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Devin White played a massive role in their Super Bowl run. I think I don't remember if it was last season or year 2 for Devin White, but he had a 9-sack season recently in the playoff run. I think he had 2 or 3 interceptions. Devin White is a guy who's shown an all-around game. If he could put that all together in one season, have like a high number of tackles, close to double-digit sacks, a couple interceptions, and make that Tampa Bay defense play even better than where a lot of people are expecting, which I think some people are not sure how to feel about that Tampa Bay defense because they lost a handful of pieces, especially compared to what that Super Bowl team was 2 seasons ago. I think Devin White could be in the conversation. And the last name I have in terms of linebackers is Fred Warner. To me, Fred Warner is an amazing linebacker. He's one of the best linebackers in the game. Actually, no, I shouldn't say last name. Darius Leonard. Let me not disrespect the big dog in Indianapolis. I think those are two guys who they make their impact known. Well over 100 tackles, a couple
It's
sacks.
Shaq Leonard now.
What happened? My bad.
Shaq Leonard now.
Oh, well, excuse me, Shaq Leonard.
Leonard now.
It's Darius to me. No, but Shaq Leonard and Fred Warner, two of the best linebackers in the game, both make an impact. Fred Warner, to me, is one of the key cogs in the San Francisco 49ers defense. Like, it's him and Nick Bosa are the guys where if either of them miss time, their defense is going to suffer a lot because those are just two pivotal pieces for their success. And then Leonard, of course, he has been the Colts defense ever since he's entered the league. All pros, Pro Bowls, everything. A defensive player. I think Leonard even won Defensive Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, his rookie season as well. So those are no. I mean, this is just based off of complete memory. So
I don't remember. That's right. I don't know.
So I think the two of them are definitely up there. But even aside from them, I have 3 secondary players that I think will be in the running for the award as well. Derwin James, first and foremost. I think he just signed that big extension. He was finally healthy all of last season. Injuries have muddled up his career. I don't think we've seen the best of Derwin James. I think there is a chance he could prove himself to be the best safety in all of football potentially this season. That is the talent that Derwin James came out with when he came out of, I believe he went to FSU, and he's not the only former FSU defensive back I have here, because Jalen Ramsey, of course, I'm going to have the man with the big mouth, but he plays a big game as well. Jalen Ramsey is probably the best corner in the game to a lot of people. The good old adage of a guy like him is that he's a top 2 corner in the league, and he's not number 2. Jalen Ramsey is supremely talented. He's one of those guys that I think can shut down half the field, and his interception count may not be high, which I think is what works against corners at the end of the day, but Jalen Ramsey is supremely talented, and I think if people were to look past the basic numbers, which I'm asking for a lot here, but if we were to look past the basic numbers and look at the impact of guys, very similar to that Darrelle Revis, when we talked about potential Hall of Famers and Darrelle Revis a couple weeks back, Justin, I think Jalen Ramsey could be one of the 2 corners that could potentially win it this year. And this might be my longest shot here, and I have a little bit of bias here because I love this guy, but I think, to me, the second best corner in all of the National Football League is Jair Alexander. I think he is a guy of the Jalen Ramsey mold. I think he is potentially going to be that, like, again, if Jalen Ramsey ever gets, like, if he were to get hurt or if he has a bad game, I think Jair Alexander would be the guy to overtake him in terms of being the number 1 corner in the league. Again, shutdown guy, shut down half the side of the field. Him not being fully healthy last season hurt the Packers defense in moments. And you saw when that Packers defense was at least close to healthy in the playoffs, the Packers defense did its job. It was the special teams and the offense that failed them at the end of the day in that playoff game against the 49ers. It wasn't the defense, which is about as rare as a blue harvest moon or a blood red moon in and of itself. So, if the Packers defense can be great once again this season, Jair Alexander is going to be a big reason for that. So that is my number 1 take. that a pass rusher will not win Defensive Player of the Year this year. Hot take number 2. This might be the biggest one. Let me just make sure I have the number proper here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 receivers breaking 1,500 yards this season. 3 guys. Yeah. 3 guys. That's not my hottest take with receiving yards, Justin, just so you know. 3 guys got over 1,500 yards last season in 2021. I actually have the 3 guys up here. It was Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Adams. Jamar Chase was very close. He was at 1,455. So I have 8 players breaking it, 2 of which are tight ends. I have look, the NFL is all about offense now, and I think this could be one of those seasons where the offenses just fly. I think it's been a little bit. I think COVID the last couple of years has slowed a couple things down. I think this season we're going to see a lot of just slinging it down the field. I know running games, we talk about how important the running game is, and look, I'm a big believer in running backs, but man, it's all about the quarterbacks. So give me the receiving guys here. The players that I have going over 1,500 yards this season, the 3 guys that did it last year, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, and Devontae Adams. Joining them, Jamar Chase, because he was very close last season. Stephon Diggs, who I think did that in year 1 with Buffalo. And this might be the wild card in terms of the wide receivers. I have CeeDee Lamb doing that. Dallas, to me, doesn't have a definitive number 2 right now. Dak Prescott's always been a high passing yards guy. Someone needs to be that dude in Dallas. I think this could be the year where CeeDee Lamb really fortifies himself as a bona fide number 1 type guy, not just on his team, but a guy that you start to consider in important conversations with these young receivers in the league now. So I have them. And my 2 tight ends, yes, I have 2 tight ends on this list as well, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, because I think the situation on both of those teams with the wide receiving core, they're the number 1 options to me. Travis Kelce's been a beast before. Mark Andrews, to me, is supremely talented. I think there's a chance that both those guys could get a lot, and I mean a lot of production. You hear how tight ends are a quarterback's best friend? That's the case here, ladies and gentlemen. And my last take, and this is going to be the wildest of them all, and this might set Justin over the edge here. The last time, let me actually bring up the numbers here to make sure that I am proper and correct here. I have it. Yes, I do. The last time that a NFL team had 3 players go over 1,000 receiving yards in a single season was 2008 with the Arizona Cardinals. It was Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Bolden, and Steve Breston, funny enough. Weird third guy. I was surprised too, Justin.
Way to take my trivia, Jared.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And Rick won't remember it. But I have, so obviously I'm mentioning that because you think, okay, Jared, you're going to go with a team doing that. Yes and no. I have 2 teams having 3 players get 1,000 or more receiving yards this season. Because recently, I believe it was back in the 2019, it was either 2019 or 2020. I actually don't have that number off rip right here, sadly. But the Chargers, I think it was actually Justin Herbert's rookie season where Keenan Allen and Mike Williams went over 1,000 and Austin Eckler was this close. I think he had over 900 receiving yards that season. He was this close to being 1,000 receiving yards there. So I have the Chargers doing that this season. We're expecting big things from them. So I have that happening. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler all go over 1,000 yards. But like I said, I have 2 teams. I got one more team here. And dang it, I'm riding the Cincinnati Bengals train, ladies and gentlemen. I have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd all getting over 1,000 receiving yards. Tyler Boyd has 2 seasons in his career with over 1,000 receiving yards. And that was with Andy Dalton and a myriad of other quarterbacks because I think one of those seasons Andy Dalton got hurt. So I have Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd might be the biggest question because he is wide receiver number 3. I think Jamar Chase easily gets that, as my second hot take shows. And I think T. Higgins is a 1,000-yard receiver in this league. But especially with Jamar Chase next to him, I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for him. So I have not 1, but 2 teams having a trio of players with 1,000-plus receiving yards. Justin, put me in the mental asylum alongside Rick.
I'm not gonna lie. 2 is more of a hot take to me than 3. I mean, 3 is like, all right, these are teams that are offensive juggernauts. They are going to have guys that just have a lot of yards. It's not so crazy for me to think that more than 2 guys might be over 1,000 yards. But 8 players going over 15, that's crazy. Especially the CeeDee Lamb part, because I got news for you. My hot take number 1 is that CeeDee Lamb was going to have under 1,000 yards this year. I do not love him.
We have dueling takes.
It is crazy. Yeah, listen, their offensive line is in shambles. People are very worried about how that's going to be. Dak is going to be running for his life, and they're not going to have the run game to back it up. So listen, they're going to go after that team, and he's going to be hawking balls up left and right. I expect decent numbers from Dak. I don't think you're going to have the season that he had last year, where he had like 30 touchdowns and a ton of yards. It's just not going to happen. So I expect a regression. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to take a step back. Um, I don't see him having a great year. Like, it'll be close. I'll have like 800 to 900 yards and maybe like 6-7 touchdowns. But he's never been a number one before. They're going to double the hell out of him. Their number 2 target is going to be freaking Dalton Schultz, who can't stay on the field. So, I don't see it happening a ton. I think that he's going to be have a rough one. So, boom, your take is already done, Jared.
How dare you? Hey, if I hit 7 out of 8, that's not bad. That's what, 87.5%?
That'd be pretty good. Yeah, it's still be pretty hot.
That's an A- in my book.
Take number 2. I've said it before. I'm going to go with it again. The Bears will have a new quarterback next year.
Ooh.
Justin Fields is not going to be the guy there, and it's not necessarily for a lack of talent. I think that he's going to have a lot of conflicting knowledge this year. He's not going to have – they didn't do much to address his offensive line. They didn't get him the receivers or the weapons he needs. He's going to be running for his life this year. He's going to be on the field a lot because I don't really believe in their defense after the moves they've made. So, and he's not – this is a new regime. They did not take him. He's not their guy. So if things don't go perfectly right from the get-go, I don't see Justin Fields making it there. I think they trade him or they'll outright now, they won't release him, but they'll keep him as a backup for the next year. I could see them going with a new quarterback at the beginning of next year, especially in a quarterback-strong draft. And then my hot take, number 3, the Houston Texans will have a better record than the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, a lot of people are very high on the Jaguars this year, and very low on the Texans. Excuse me. After all the moves that they made, but I gotta say they have a lot of young talent, a lot of underrated players on that Texans team, and their quarterback play there is not so bad. So they really have, I think, the pieces to get going. I'm not saying they're going to let the world on fire, but they're going to have a better record this year than the Jaguars I would say by 2 games. By 2 games.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought just to stick in the craw at Rick, I thought you were going to say that the Texans would be better than the Lions this season for the hell.
Yeah, I thought about saying something like that, but I just couldn't put my stamp of approval on it. I don't think that's going to be the case. So that would be more than a hot take for me. That'd be an outright lie.
Right. Yeah. Very, very much so. And to be fair, part of it at the end of the day is, like I said, with hot takes, it's blurring the lines between what you think will happen versus let me go a little bit past the edge of what I would normally think here.
Little bonus one for you.
Mm-hmm.
A former MVP will win the MVP this year.
Okay.
And it's not going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Nice. So funny you mentioned that. I was thinking this. I waited just in case it was going to be your take. I think there's a chance we see a first-time MVP this season for the award.
Who are you thinking?
I think Josh Allen is going to be in the conversation. He hasn't won the award yet. I think Justin Herbert is very much going to be in the conversation. He hasn't won the award yet. Depending on if the Raiders or Broncos can perform this season, like I could see one of those two, either Russell Wilson or Derek Carr, if they put up the numbers, they'll be in the conversation. And it'll be first time for both of them. And we mentioned both of them earlier in the show. If Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry can both rush for 2,000 rushing yards, and if Jonathan Taylor goes like 2K and 1K, which would be wild, but if let's say he goes 2K, 1K, it'd be his first time. Derrick Henry also, if he goes for something crazy like 2,500 rushing yards, let's say, which is in the realm of possibility. Let's clarify that. It actually kind of is, especially because he loves running over teams that Derrick Henry loves running the hell over. He loves running over the Tennessee Titans. Oh, no, excuse me. Well, he's on Tennessee Titans. Bye-bye. He loves running over the Buffalo Bills. I don't know if they face the Buffalo Bills this season, but if they do, guaranteed he's getting 150 yards behind them. He always rushes for it feels like 200 yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is my shtick. Def taxes and Derrick Henry rushes for 150 plus yards against the Jacksonville Jaguars every single time. If you show me a stat line with Derrick Henry less than 150 rushing yards against the Jaguars ever since 2019, Photoshop Fake. I don't believe it. That dude just terrorizes that team every single time they face. And I want to say he probably has a good game against the Houston Texans. Derrick Henry just terrorizes certain teams, and I very much think it's a possibility that Derrick Henry could be really good. Like I think a first-time MVP is well within the realm of possibility this year, along with it being a close race. I think there's a chance we see a first-time MVP because, this is part of my reason, Justin. I think people are voter burnout is a thing. We can guarantee, unless he throws for 7,000 yards, Aaron Rodgers ain't winning the MVP again. Let's be real here. He's not going to do it. Similar thing to Brady.
If Aaron Rodgers has the exact same statistical season last year,
he's not getting it. Exactly.
Why not?
Hold. This is not me against Aaron Rodgers. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. I
don't think he should have won it last year. Don't get me wrong, but now he's got nothing.
Right.
There are no receivers there.
Right. But no, listen.
41-8.
Right.
With 4,000 yards.
With that core. No, I definitely agree with you. Here's the thing. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. I to the end of my sports takes, I will say Aaron Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback in NFL history. I've had to defend that against a number of people. I believe in Aaron Rodgers. I just think voter burnout is a thing. I think if he gets the same exact production as last season, I don't think people are going to give him the award. I know the context is certainly different.
LeBron effect.
But LeBron effect, and here's the thing, Justin, at the end of the day, and this is my thing with voters, and I have a beef with voters of various other things, not just in football, but basketball and hockey especially. I don't expect them to take context into the situation. Like Aaron Rodgers could have the same exact stats as last season. They're going to be like, oh, he did that last year. I'm not going to give it to him. They're not going to think, oh, he lost Devontae Adams. He had nothing going into this season. They don't always think like that. I think it's
there's something different about the NFL MVP voters. I don't know.
I think sometimes
I don't think he deserved it this year. I think there were better players this year, but that's just me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm just saying,
maybe it's Brady, and you know how I feel about that.
Very true, very true. But I think I just don't see Rodgers getting it. Like Mahomes could potentially do it, but again, I feel the media is starting to turn against Mahomes and the Chiefs a little bit. Brady, it's hit or miss. Like he probably could have won the MVP last season, and I think if they knew he was going to pull the whole retirement thing. I'm not even just saying that because of him coming out. Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. The only reason he quote unquote retired was because of the whole plan with the Dolphins to be able to join them and Sean Payton there. Let's keep it real. No one else has been saying that. They still keep talking about Tom Brady. He retired, but he came back because he wants to win for 10. No, he was forced to because Adam Schefter broke the news, and then Brian Flores' news broke immediately. If it wasn't for those two things happening, Tom Brady would be a Miami Dolphin within the next month or two. Moving on from that, I just think there's a chance they give it to a new player this season, especially because I think you have the Bills potentially could be the number 1 seed in the AFC, and that would be a big thing for Buffalo just overall. You have the hype behind Burrow and Herbert. You have the potential of these not mystery teams, but you have the potential of certain teams and what they could do with, like I said, with the Raiders, Broncos. Heck, even Matt Stafford, if the Rams do 14-3, he's never won the MVP award either. He could be in the conversation. Heck, who knows? Trey Lance could have a Patrick Mahomes performance and he throws for 45 touchdowns. I know that's not going to happen, but that's really going off the deep end. That's me lying right there. But I think it'll be a first-time MVP this season compared to most.
So. You didn't ask who my repeat MVP was going to be.
Oh, I apologize. Who is your? Well, hold on. Let me guess. Give me a chance. Give me a chance.
It's not that hard to guess.
Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Brady.
Maybe it is hard to guess.
Hold on. Give me a second here. So Rodgers won the last two.
A return to form is going to be healthy this year, and he's in a contract year.
I'm going to get made fun of by people for not knowing this off the top. But Cam Newton, right now, I'm kidding.
Lamar
Jackson. Oh.
Going to win his second MVP this year.
Oh, that's a good shout. That's a really good shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, no, honestly, if we had actually done a preseason award thing before last week or something, I actually probably
would. Good idea.
Yeah. Hindsight 2020. You know what? Dang, that's not bad. I mean, honestly, I think I was even saying I was saying at some point during the offseason, I think Lamar would actually have a real MVP case here, especially after they traded Marquise Brown. So that's not a bad shout at all. That's really good. That's a really good one right there. Dang. Hold on. Rick might be right at the end of this. We might have the tightest MVP race ever because this is a lot of guys. Like,
a lot of
like,
people.
like you and me are trying to predict who are we going to see a repeat? Are we going to see a first time? And Rick is just there the entire time, like, oh, I'm going to be right at the end of the day.
My hot take. Yeah.
Rick at the end of the day has the hottest take of them all, clearly. And he's not even on the show, and he's affecting it like this. That's just Podfathers do what Podfathers do, ladies and gentlemen. We can't explain it. It's just a legend thing. That's all we can say. But yeah, that's it. The bar is closed on hot takes for the season going into the year. Will we probably have hot takes during the season? Yes, but those don't count. The ones before the season are the ones that matter the most, clearly, because that's all anyone ever gets remembered for. Not if they switch during the season. So we move on. Of course, hot takes are done. They're locked in. We're going to be held up to them, clearly. I can't wait for CD Lamb to get over like, wait, hold on, Justin. I have a thing, because I was thinking if we bet, but this is the funny thing. What if because obviously we could have a bet where it's like, if I'm right, you have to get like a CD Lamb shirt, or if you're right, I have to get a CD Lamb shirt. But what if like he hits right in the middle? What if he gets exactly like 1,250 receiving yards? What should we do for that? If he proves both of us wrong,
Rick has to get a CD Lamb.
I like it. So locked in. That's definitely going to be a bet for the upcoming season. But in all seriousness, the hot takes are done. We're going to move on, ladies and gentlemen, to the analysis of it, because of course we record on a weekend basis, so we're going to miss the first game of the season, or so you think, because we're going to cover that in this episode. But before we get to the first game in and of itself, of course, I said the first game is going to be a very important game going into this season, especially for us. And there's a reason why, because ladies and gentlemen, for the 2022 NFL season, I present to each and every single one of you the Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge. Me, Justin, and Rick, of course, we were kind of like, we've hinted at a couple things in terms of us, with our playoff standings, making little like wagers on the side of who gets closest to their predictions, records, etc., and how good they do. We're going to expand that, not just to what our final standings were, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do that on a week-by-week basis. There's a reason why I call this man the next great game show host in America, because Justin ironed out the rules in and of itself. He laid the law of the land down, and he said, guys, this is how we're doing it. So, Justin, you came up with it. You did it great. I'm going to let you present the rules for the 2022 Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge that the three of us are going to go after. It'll be a very arduous journey week by week for us to pick these games. And at the end of it, someone has to come out a winner, Justin. Tell the people how we're competing.
Yes. The winner of the Pick Challenge will be officially the first ever Sports Agents of Chaos regular season champion. So it's all about the bragging rights there. The rules are going to be simple. We're going to make picks each week in a serpent draft order. So basically, whoever has the worst record is going to pick a game that they like and their winner with the spread, of course. So, and games obviously can't be repeated. Like once let's say Jerg takes the Ravens beating the Jets, I can't say the Jets are going to cover. Once a game is picked, it can't be picked again. So we're going to go, worst team goes first in a serpentine draft order until each person has 4 teams that are going to beat the spread. No Thursday night games. We'll cover those separately. And there's going to be a point system. So, excuse me, basically you get 2 points for every game you picked correctly with the spread. You get 1 point for every outright win. That, let's say you pick the Ravens and they don't cover, you'll get that 1 point for that game as opposed to the 2. You get no points for incorrect games or ties unless you happen to call a tie during the week. If you get a tie correctly, you will get 5 points, and I'll buy you dinner, Jerk. That's all right. And to determine who will pick first, week 1, we are going to pick the Bills-Rams game for the week, with a point score. So whoever has the closest without going over the Price is Right rules, as Rick would say, because I said Price is Right rules and he got upset with me. It's the Price is Right. So whoever gets the correct winner with the closest score will get first pick next week when we pick our games.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is the pick challenge, ladies and gentlemen. The three of us are going to be competing now. I say three of us. Sandoval will also be involved in this. I'm waiting for the scenario where Sandoval just beats us at the end of the season. I know it's going to happen.
Any leftover games.
Yes.
Sandoval will pick one, and if he gets it right, he gets 10 points.
Yes. So that, as Rick would say, that damn deer. Because
he cheats anyways, so can't Google that, Sandoval. All right, can't Google that. Good luck.
As the infamous Fourth Punic War rages between Justin and Sandoval. Yeah, that is going to be the Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely excited for it. I do another podcast where I pick a weekly basis the outcomes of games. Not really much of a point spread, just the overall prediction record. I think I actually won the regular season on the other podcast I do last season. So I have a crown actually already. So I'm proud of it. And we will see if I can continue my regular season luck. Knowing me, I'm going to end up losing this entire thing and become last place every single week. But at least I got first dibs on a weekly basis if that ends up being the case. I will say this though, for pure chicanery, maybe not every other week. That might be a little overkill. Lock it in. I'm making at least 3 or 4 tie predictions throughout the course of the season. I'm like, look. This is the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast for a reason. I am predicting ties on this show. If you think I'm not going to predict ties,
we should maybe pick underdogs too. We might have to discuss having one underdog pick.
Oh yeah. We'll hammer out those details. I think just like the three of us in general, I think we know enough to where we're gonna have a little bit of fun with it. I think we're all gonna pick underdogs, which totally means the Jets are going to win several games for me this season, definitely. Because forget Joe Flacco, I believe in Mike White, ladies and gentlemen. Well, not really, but for the sake of the show. But yeah, every Jets fan when I say Mike White just shrugs, sighs, and is just
listen. After the preseason, I believe in Mike White more than Joe Flacco too. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But.
It's not a high bar to clear. It's really not. So to say the very least, ladies and gentlemen, the mantra of the show is we have fun, we talk football, and we have when there's some chaos. This is the definition of that for this show. We've been wondering how we're going to have fun during the season, and this is exactly it. And we're also going to have a little bit of breakdown, like with our selections. We're going to have a little bit of week-by-week breakdown with this as well. So this really gives us the opportunity to cover just about every game because let me tell you from experience, it is not easy covering every single game on a week-by-week basis. It is, let me say, not just easy. It's impossible. Like, you can't properly break down every single game on a week-by-week basis. So why not go with this format? And I think this is going to be fun. It lets us have our opportunities to pick every single game, talk about every single team in some way, shape, or form. Some in a better light than others. Sorry, Falcons fans and Texans fans and Jaguars fans. And irregardless, we're going to have a lot of fun this season. We're going to cover a lot of different teams. And I think we're going to discover a lot of things, including what our real NFL knowledge is, Justin, which I don't have high hopes in regards to mine, to say the very least.
I had a rough season last year when I did pick them, but the year before I was killing it. So we'll see. I guess sometimes it's a toss-up.
Oh yeah. Justin, the last 2 playoff runs I've been on, I've been like decent, like in terms of like playoff predictions. Like I think I've only gotten like 2 or 3 games wrong the last 2 years in the playoffs. But I used to be a beast at predicting the playoffs.
So 2 years ago, I did really well. I picked every game, and I did really well on my regular season like victories and stuff like that. But then I did the ESPN Pick'em Challenge. And I lost week 1 when I chose Phillip Rivers and the Colts to beat the Jaguars. Oof. I was like, that's an easy one. Let me just bang it out real quick. And I was completely out of it because that was the iron sharpens iron game. And they didn't win a single game the rest of the season. But they won against Phillip Rivers and the playoff-bound Colts. So, killed me.
So, ladies and gentlemen, lest you think that there was no reason that you picked the Texans above the Jaguars for a hot take, that right there, that right there is the Justin versus Jacksonville villain origin story there, right there. But hey, we're gonna have fun as that goes. It starts next week, and boy, oh boy, it's gonna be a hell of a time. Speaking of which, Justin, let's get to it. Like you said, the way we're going to decide the week 1 order is going to be via this first game of the season between the Bills and the Rams. And the only Thursday night game we're technically going to cover, like Justin said, we're not going to include the Thursday night picks, obviously, because, well, it's not going to be the same week, considering the way we record the show. But we will be reviewing games. So next week on the podcast, we are going to be reviewing this game after it's happened. So we're going to have plenty of fun there. So, Justin, Bills a AFC contender, to say the very least. A lot of people, the Super Bowl favorite to come out the AFC versus the Rams, defending Super Bowl champions. So many ways to go about this game. But per usual, I think it's only right to start with our guy. What does Rick have to say about the Bills versus Rams matchup, to say the very least? What is going on here? Okay, we have a little bit of a situation. The video is not playing. Okay, there. So I'm going to try to get old buddy back with us. But in the meanwhile, Justin, we'll start with your analysis. Technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen, live. Nonetheless, you gotta love it. Let's start with Justin. Let's start with you. Let's go with you first. What do you have to say in regards to this Bills versus Rams game?
I think it's a much more important game than people are thinking. It's going to be a possible Super Bowl matchup between two teams that are heavily expected to be contenders this year, and you're going to look for both of these teams to make statement wins this week. So look for both of these teams to address certain issues that were brought up in the offseason by other teams. You really got to think about the Rams offensive line with the departure of Andrew Whitworth into retirement. They really got to get that run game going because it's something that they've sort of struggled with in the last few years. I mean, it helps when you have receivers like Robert Woods, Odell in midseason, and Cooper Kupp bringing the Triple Crown. So, I mean, that they should be fine there, especially with Allen Robinson now taking up that mantle. And I expect Van Jefferson to take a small step forward this year. But they really got to get that run game started. And it's against the Bills team who really struggled against the run last year. They were supposed to be much better defensively than I think a lot of people expect them to be. The formula for beating the Bills last year was good defense and running the ball. If you can get after their quarterback and you could run it down their throat, then there was really nothing they could do to stop you. I mean, which was shown by the worst team in the league last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So look for both of these teams to establish that. The Bills really have to establish that run-stopping defense early, really get after the quarterback, and hope that their secondary can stay healthy this year because that was a really rough blow when Tre'Davious White went down for them last year. I think that's going to be really the X factors of this game is can the Rams get that running game going against what could be a soft Bills run defense, or are the Bills really going to be able to stop them, stop the run, get after the quarterback, and stop these receivers from running wild on that team? We all know the Bills offense is going to put up points even against a strong Rams defense like that. Expect Aaron Donald to get after Josh Allen. Josh Allen can move. He can get out. He was the Bills' leading rusher last year. So we'll see. And my X factor for the Bills, it's going to be James Cook and Devin Singletary. What are they going to do coming out of the backfield? Are they going to be able to run against this stiff Rams defensive line? Are they going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield against those tough linebackers like Bobby Wagner? Or are they going to get shut down? It's really hard to be a one-dimensional team in this league. And if the Bills are going to be one-dimensional against the Super Bowl defending champions, the LA Rams, you're going to see a tough season from them. The X factor for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, is that elbow okay? Are we going to see a tough season from him? He's had injury issues in the past. He's a tough guy. He will tough it out. We all know that. We all remember when he separated his shoulder and still came back in and threw that game-winning pass. That was years ago at this point. Are the Rams going to be able to make it through if Matthew Stafford does have a legitimate elbow injury and that pain really keeps him from throwing the ball down the field and getting it to his X factors like Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson? That's what I look to see in this week's this Thursday night opening day. I have the Rams winning. I think the Bills are going to put up a lot of points, but I think it's going to be Rams squeaking one out, maybe with the last second field goal. I'm going to say 35-31 Rams.
Well, okay. Not about. I mean, I'm all for a game-winning field goal, of course. So yeah, you're winning me over right there, Justin. No, I'm definitely with you. I think you said a lot of it right there. I think because it's the first game of the season, it's really hard to expect anything exact. So you kind of have to base it off of last season. Definitely think that the Bills, in terms of trying to get the run game going, will be a big thing because look, Josh Allen supremely talented. That team is great overall. I think it just makes them better if they can have a rushing attack that can be equivalent to their passing attack in terms of how potent it could potentially be without the quarterback. I think would be the big thing. If Devin Singletary can have a big season for himself and be more of a support for Josh Allen, that just makes the Buffalo Bills an even more dangerous threat than what we're all already expecting of them. So I definitely see it there. in regards to that. I think for me, like my biggest factor in this, at least in this first game, is just going to be health. The Rams, relatively speaking, like their main core is healthy. With the Bills, Tre'Davious White is expected to miss this game, and I think the first 2 to 3 games, at maybe 4 of the season, he's expected to miss because he's still recovering from the torn ACL from last season. I forget which safety it is. It's either, I think it's Jordan Poyer, who he's been recently like trying to get in gear and get ready to play week 1. I think it's up in the air if he's going to play week 1. Even if he does, from what I've read, it's not going to be him being 100%. So right now you have Micah Hyde being, at least he's the healthy guy in that safety tandem. We have Kyer Elam, their first round pick from this past draft, I believe. Or yeah, I think it was their first round pick. He would kind of be the number 1 corner to an extent. Maybe not the number 1 corner. Maybe they'll sell that for a veteran, but he's going to play an important role in trying to go up against a LA Rams squad here, who it's Cooper Kupp coming off of last season, and it's Allen Robinson joining the fray. It is the expectation that Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson are both going to be healthy off the bat of the season, which I think would be absolutely massive for the Rams if the 2 of them can be fully healthy this year. Akers, of course, only played the 1 game in the regular season. Or actually, no, did he even play in the regular season? Did he get hurt in the preseason last year with his Achilles? I completely forget, but he came back in the playoffs. So you have that. Darrell Henderson played a good chunk of last season, but he also missed, I want to say 5 games because I think he only played in 12. So at least on paper, it looks like the Rams are the healthier team. But there's also the alleged thing going on with Stafford's elbow. Up in the air there. I think the Rams are personally going to be fine. I'm not too concerned about that. I think like it's going to be one of those things where it's like, well, we'll see how big of an issue it is when, like, we actually have to see if it is an issue before we can really give any diagnosis on it. I think just overall talent-wise, I think first game, again, while there's the expectation for Gabriel Davis and Jamison Crowder could be good, at least a nice little weapon for the Bills. And Dawson Knox, of course, is a great tight end. I think overall I give the Rams a bit of an edge in this matchup compared to the opponents. And I think at the end of the day, for week 1, of course, still the highest of expectations when it comes to the Bills for the overall season. But I just think this first game, it's going to be a little tough. So I have it because of the injuries in the secondary. I'm going to have a 1 touchdown difference in this one, and I'm going to say the final score will be more something like, I still think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, don't get me wrong here, because I think if someone can score on this Rams team, I think it can be the Bills. I'll say 35-28. I think that would be my final score more. So a little bit of a quote-unquote generic high-scoring game, but at the same time, I think you just have 2 very talented teams, to say the very least, between those 2 clubs. Now, will this work is the question. Please do work. Okay, so we have a little bit of an issue. Rick's video is not playing for some reason. I don't know why.
Did you watch it?
No, I did not.
You don't have Rick's pick.
Do you want to fill in real quick while I get the pick?
Sure. So wait, what was your final score?
35-28, Rams being the Bills.
Okay, that's good. I noticed also my pick. What I said by a field goal, but it was a 4-point difference, and also you can't. I mean, you might be able to score field goals to get to 35, but I don't know how. That sounds like a bunch of touchdowns to me. I'm excited. I think that this is going to be a really good year. I happen to love the Rams going into the season. I know that a lot of people don't. They're a little bit older, which makes injury a serious concern, and their offensive line is missing their starting left tackle. A lot of people like, I believe his name's Boom, who's going to fill in for Whitworth. But we're going to see. It's really going to be whether or not this team can get their run game started, because that's really how you supplement having older veteran players on your team. Is can you keep the ball for an extended period of time? Don't rush. Don't leave your defense on the field too long, and see if your young running backs can really get it started. And I think it's kind of almost a dream matchup for them, because, like I said, the Bills are expected to be really good. A lot of people have them coming out of the AFC completely. I almost said AFC West. That's not even close. And they had a really struggle last year against the run. So they've been trying to address it in the last couple of drafts. It didn't really come to fruition. We're going to see now how that Bills defense really steps up to this sort of adverse challenge. And we're going to see now with a new offensive coordinator too, because remember, Brian Daboll left for New York to go down to the Giants to be their head coach. We're going to see how this new offensive system really comes into play, because I know we all know they drafted James Cook, brother running back Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. They've had a really tough time struggling running the ball. And I mean, for your quarterback to be your leading rusher in a year, you really struggle keeping defenses honest because either they're going to load the box and come after you, or they're all going to sit back on their heels and they're going to let you throw the ball and see if they can't pick that off or make a good defensive play. So, I mean, it is Josh Allen. He's an MVP candidate coming into every year. They expect him to be really good. I happen to think the Bills are going to be a little one-dimensional this year. I think that they've done their best to try and draft. But if you can't stop the run and you can't run the ball, it's much easier to call plays against you. So we'll see. I can see the Bills being an early playoff disappointment. There's no chance to me that they don't win the division, but they were disappointing to me last year, believe it or not. They had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL last year, and they weren't even a number one seed. They really, really disappointed last year. I thought they were going to be closer to 14, 15 wins. They ended up being, what would they have, 11 wins last year, Jared? Something like that. It was rough. It's okay. You're working. Do what you got to do.
My bad. They didn't have 12. I could have sworn they had 12.
They had 12. Still disappointing. I mean, They played the Jets twice. They played the Dolphins twice. They played the Patriots twice. They played, the Jaguars. It was a rough year for the Bills. I think they could have been a lot better.
Right. So
yeah.
Justin. So I do have Rick's prediction here, but that's not enough. Joining us live. Vacation.
Where do you think I am, Podfather?
I recorded that video in a goddamn sauna for you two, and I used WeTransfer like Jerk had asked me to do, and it failed.
Hey, I was trying to get
WeTransfer is going to be my rant of the week next week. It's my gold star rant of the week because it's a massive bungle of a failure.
Hey, to be fair, the video that I retransferred of you with the Coca-Cola thing worked, so I don't know.
Well, you better hope that rant video works because I'm actually going to be on the road while we're done with that because God forbid I have to get on and while driving on 87 do a damn Joe Flacco rant. Like, come on. Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
Okay. I'll make this short and quick because, as it says, I'm on vacation. You noobs have disturbed me. But okay. Rams 30, Bills 27. I have the Bills leading at the end of the first half, but I have the Rams making a second half comeback. I have Stafford leading a game-winning drive in the final 2 minutes, and they'll be down 27-24. They will score the winning touchdown, miss the extra point at the end, and there will be a little drama with Josh Allen. He'll have a Hail Mary attempt at the final bit, but it'll get knocked down, and the Rams will win 30-27. That's what I had them winning, so I have that as my score and as my prediction. Leave me alone. I'm on vacation.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Now, here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the Bills win? Who picks first next week?
Oh, if they win by field goal between you two?
Well, no. Everyone picked the Rams, didn't they?
Oh. Live on air via video. Good old game of Rochambeau, rock, paper, scissors.
Well, that or the wheel.
Yeah. Hey, actually, you know what? Wheel of Chaos can always help us decide. And if it's what's it called? If it's between like you two, because you guys both picked them by a field goal. So if it's
I picked them at 4. 35-31.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
I said field goal, but then I didn't math.
We got 3, 4, and 7. Okay, this will be interesting. So hypothetically, for the hell of it, let's say the Rams win by 5.
How do you mean? Price is right rules.
Very, very true. Very true. Oh God.
The price is correct rules.
Right.
Let's see him get mad at that next week.
Could you imagine the Rams win by a safety? We all went over.
Yeah, that would be something.
Oh my God. We are setting this up for complete chaos. I think we might need to bring out the Wheel of Chaos next week for all intents and purposes, potentially. But hey, that'll be next week. All of us have a complete sweep, which probably expected that. Let's be real here. For the week in and of itself, I think it's safe to say. I mean, Rick kind of gave what he expects to happen. You gave the best analysis here, Justin. I appreciate it because, technology is amazing. But I think everything that you said really is accurate. I think overall for the long haul, I think the running game for the Bills is going to be a big X factor of how they're going to do it. I think this first game is going to be a massive, telltale sign of how that running game is going to be. I think if they struggle here, I think it's going to be rough because they, like you said, they're going to have tough competition this year because they were the bona fide number 1 seed in the AFC East last year and a top tier team in and of itself. Like, tough teams get tough schedules. That's how it works. And the Bills are certainly going to have their fair share of difficult games. This is the first one. That's not going to be the last. And if their running game and their running defense, I think mainly for the playoffs, the running defense, but I think if their running game fails them, like you said, I think the AFC East is theirs, but could they even potentially be in danger to lose that top spot in the AFC, as some, myself included, are projecting them as? Who knows? It really all shakes up to how ultimately things play out. So it'll be an interesting way to analyze the Buffalo Bills. And are we going to overreact a little bit to one game? Probably. we try, honestly, even though we are all about the chaos, we try not to overreact to one game samples. I say that we haven't had to react to a game yet, so who am I to say? But I think we're not going to really overreact to one game samples like most do. But it'll be interesting to see what the final score of this game is. If the Rams come out and beat the Bills by 2 touchdowns, it's going to be like, whoa, the Rams are really good. If we end up seeing that, first of all, because I have the touchdown, that would mean I would win first. But it would also mean that at the end of the day, are the Bills worse than what we expect? Or are the Rams just that much better? And if it's the latter and the Rams are even better than what we're expecting, I think we need to be scared. Especially Rick's prediction of the Rams not getting the number 1 seed, just saying. But yeah, this first game, I think we've had some really good first games the last couple of years here, Justin, but I think this will, at least for me, my money, this is on paper, the most anticipated first game, even compared to the previous seasons, because these are just this could be the Super Bowl matchup at the end of the year. Legitimately, this could be it.
This is a big one for sure. Yeah, like you said, this could be the matchup. It's what a lot of people are actually predicting. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I predicted. I predicted this.
Can you imagine Bills Rams is actually the bookend for an entire season? They start the season off on Thursday night and then they play in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's a stat for you to look up for trivia. How often has that happened?
And I don't think it's ever happened before, but I'll take a look.
Fair, but always something to dive into and explore. Speaking of exploring and seeing if things end up working out, ladies and gentlemen, let's see if the rant works. Because if the rant doesn't work, I'm actually going to be very disappointed here. Do we have a rant of the week for this week?
Boys, I couldn't let this go. I've got something to say, and it's pretty vicious. Jets, what the hell are you doing? After you have Chris Streveler, who has the greatest preseason of all time, according to your head coach, you release him for Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco, who's probably still stuck in his prime after the Delaware Blue Hens, thing ran out. He can teach you what a Blue Hen is? Why do you have him on the roster? For a veteran quarterback? Mike White's a veteran quarterback. Streveler and Mike White had the greatest preseasons. Flacco sucks. He's terrible. Come on, Jets, you're better than this. You're going to start Joe Flacco week 1. Why? Because he played in the Ravens, so he knows how to play them? Hello, brand new defensive coordinator. Hello. 18 years past his prime. Joe Flacco's 79 years old. Come on now. This is ridiculous. I loved Chris Streveler. I loved Mike White. I think they should be in the quarterback room when Zach Wilson gets back and not Joe Bum Flacco, because he is a bum. Flacco, more like wacko and just terrible. Get him off my team. I want nothing to do with him. Please leave. Thank you, Joe Flacco, for your service. Goodbye.
The rant worked. the rant worked. Normally there is way more buildup to it, and in part because it works more when Rick is here. Not that much buildup into it, but hey, I was more concerned that we weren't going to get a rant this week.
Listen, this was an old school, he wasn't just looking for stuff to rant about. That was a real rant. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. That was from the heart of a man who was sick and tired of Joe Flacco being on his team.
That was from deep down.
First, I love first off the birds and the plane in the background with just the ambiance to it, plus the ultimate morning voice. You could tell, and because we just had him on, the clear difference between how he was. Marvelous. Chef's kiss. I can't think of anything better to end the show off of. Justin, is any final comments about anything we discussed? Maybe about the Jets? Do you have your own comments about them?
Just let's go Jets. Let's hope it's let me say that more confidently. Let's go Jets. I don't have much confidence. Well, I did have a lot more confidence going into the preseason, and then Wilson played for like 5 minutes and got hurt, and that 5 minutes wasn't great. And then Flacco, from what I saw, didn't look great. And then Mike White looked okay, but as the second stringer. So we'll see. Listen, maybe a hot take might be the Jets are looking for a new quarterback next year. We'll see.
Ooh. A lot of teams could be looking for new quarterbacks, according to Justin. A coach may get fired. I have everyone getting 1,500 receiving yards, apparently. And we all have the Rams winning, which will be absolutely hilarious if the Bills will end up winning this game and just put egg on all of our faces. All that and more on tap for next week's episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. As we had said earlier in the show, next week we'll begin the 2022 season version of the Sports Agents of Chaos Pick Challenge, where me, Rick, and Justin will compete for bragging rights and much more potentially that we actually have to figure out. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we do all this on the fly, ladies and gentlemen, just like the outro, because that is the way we do things on the show. Always come back on a weekly weekend basis to the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, guys, where we love to have fun, love to talk plenty of football, and we love to spread just a little bit of chaos, sometimes thanks to the technology. Thank you all so much for joining us on this week's edition of the show, and we will see you guys next